Welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Van Tyne here with Ted Ings. Ted, today we have a unique panel that we're going to be asking our panelists to participate in. We have a battle royale, pro e-com versus anti-e-com, and this is going to be a really exciting conversation.
Sarah, you're so right. We have some superstars with us. Among them, Kelly Marsden from River City Ford, who's been with us before. Welcome back, Kelly. Tully Williams on the West Coast from the Nilo Company out in Sacramento. Sean Kingery at the Kaiser Automotive Group in Balmy, Madison, Wisconsin. And of course, our great colleague, Jen Zainuma with Revolution Parts. Everybody, welcome to the panel. And let the battle begin, Sarah.
That's right, Ted. So to kick things off, I'm going to come to Tully first. And, Tully, so we're thinking about our part strategy and just generally, if you had to double parts revenue in 12 months, would your current strategy get you there?
Double is a big, massive number. But here's the thing. If you're going to double your revenue, what are you going to do? You have to find different sources to sell parts. The shop's the shop. Are you going to increase technicians? Yes. That's not going to get you where you need to be. The next step is going to be your counter. Okay, I don't think you're going to sell much. You got Matchbox cars and, little doll things out there. That ain't going to double revenue either. But what we need is to sell to the mass market. Think of back in the 80s and 90s when Amazon says, I want to sell books online. And these crazy people said, that's not going to work. And today, if you don't buy something on Amazon, you're under a rock. So for me, for our stores to grow that big number, we need to get our parts to a bigger audience, and online sales is really the only avenue I can see to do that, because shops can't produce that. Or unless you have an underperforming shop and you're going to change it, you have to find a different revenue source, and that's going to be online sales.
Kelly, I want to come to you now on this because, again, you're a very different market than where Tully is. So let's think about, doubling parts revenue in 12 months. The strategy that you're doing today, how would that look?
Yeah, why doubling? Why aren't we tripling this? No, I'm with Tully. Doubling's a big, high goal to hit, right? That's tough. I mean, that's everyone's ultimate. You do want to double it. I joke about tripling is you want to triple it, obviously, right? But yeah, I agree with Tully 100%. You got to look outside your walls. There's nothing you're gonna do in the store to just double your business or even half your business. Like, people aren't gonna just naturally come in. So we're going outside that. So yeah, e-commerce, big part of it. That's been our plan for a while. We have some more things in the work now that we actually want to double our e-commerce this year. That's not going to double our overall part sales, but we can double that. That would be great. But yeah, then we look outside. Like, there's a huge benefit. I'm with a brand that obviously #1 brand for upfitting possibilities with Ford, because so many government vehicles are Super Duties, F-150s, and so forth. Those customers are always looking to buy their vehicles and then take them somewhere and get it done. Traditionally, dealerships let them out the door, go to an upfitter. We're keeping that all in house now, right? We started doing spray and box liners. Everything that we find that we send out, why aren't we doing that? That's revenue that's being lost on our watch. Get that back. So that's one of our big goals now.
Sean, to come to you, retail, thinking of all of these pieces. I mean, Tully and Kelly have brought some really good points forward. What about your current strategy? How would that look if you were looking to double your parts revenue?
Well, first of all, Tully sounds scared. Let me start there. Scared. That's okay. I got it, Tully. It's all right. Nobody's perfect in California. All your laws and whatever. No, let me tell you, we're
on, bro.
We're on. Bring it, boy. Anyway, hey, let me tell you where my focus is on this. And I understand that the need for e-commerce. I'm not picking on the need for it, but I'm going to pick my battles in these day and age with the retail market being what it is and margins being where they are, and insurance companies come in and handing us our lunch for those that have collision centers, and wholesale getting so cheap. And now with all these aftermarket extended warranties demanding or demanding low margins on what they're going to pay and reimburse, e-commerce is low on my food chain. I'm just being honest and upfront about it, guys. I'm looking at my retail parts margin, make sure we're getting what we can from the retail client, making sure we can get what we can on the internals, by the way. Sales should pay the same as a customer. Dolly can keep shaking his head, but I'm just here to tell you. And then you got these insurance companies that are just eating our lunches for what they're willing to pay and wanting to go into aftermarket, wanting to go used. We need to focus on that. We need to focus on parts. I love the double number. I'm not scared of it. I just don't know that e-commerce is the #1 solution right now.
Jensei, you have the unique perspective with Revolution Parts of getting to see a lot of dealers like Tully and Sean and Kelly throughout the country, North America. And what's your take? What are you seeing out there? And our strategies working to get double revenue?
Yeah. Well, first thing I'll say, and I'm not trying to argue with you, Sean. All right. I'm just, I'm just hearing you out. I'm not trying to be modest either. But I was a parts manager and parts director myself, and I was actually in a position where I had to diversify. I think about, the doubling the revenue of a dealership, like diversifying your portfolio. If you put all your eggs in one basket of how you're going to develop revenue, you're limiting where you can go. And the thing is, in my opinion, when I look at a lot of the dealers here in the country, how they think about, expanding their dealership is not just living on their current market's progress. If their current market is not doing well, right? If you're on e-commerce, you're somewhere in the country is doing well. And if your city is not progressing that month, that year, that quarter, if you're online, you at least have the opportunity to actually develop revenue somewhere that is doing well. And the last thing I'll kind of just throw out as a thought as I look at a lot of the accounts that we do consulting with and work with is they realize in e-commerce, it's business they would have never had. So, if you weren't online, you would never had that customer to begin with. They're not coming in the dealership, right? They don't even know the dealership exists most cases, right? So it's kind of a necessary evil, in my opinion. It's necessary for every dealership.
Tully, that great analogy to Amazon a little bit earlier today. You do some innovative things at the Nilo company, such as pay plans, the way you pay your parts counter people, very similar on the service side. Tully, can a parts department really grow substantially in 2026 without an online channel?
I don't think so. I mean, Jinsei said it great. It's kind of like Sean saying, I'm going to put all my stock in Blockbuster. I just think that that's not the way to do it. And I think that, I believe that we have a diversified portfolio of Amazons, right? I think those are things that are going to work. And then your goal is going to be is that, are you open-minded? And here's the thing, please don't take this offensively, but parts people are kind of in their bubble because we lock them in the back room and we tell them, don't let anybody take parts out unless you put it on a repair order. And I think that we've got to get them opening up to what's going on out there in that great world out there of how they can produce more, because every parts manager wants to grow their business. Now, getting back to pay plans, is pay plans drives behavior. And when we look at our pay plans at ours, it's all about the hours at the Nilo company, right? And what we do is our parts back counter people, and we want to separate those for this reason, is they're focused on making sure that we have parts so our technicians can produce hours. Without parts, you can't produce hours. And we want our front counter to focus on customers and online activities. And that growth there, to me, is really key. One thing that Sean did bring up, it's tough. Body shops are the hardest thing to do right now. I mean, the state lets the body shop, the insurance companies, control our costs. There is no arguing about it. And here's the deal. You're going to say, I'm not taking the insurance companies. You're going to go broke in a month. So the goal is going to be is you have to learn to manage that. And I think the way that parts departments can manage profit and manage gross profit is doing what? Volume sells. Again, I gotta say this word again, Amazon, but they don't make a lot of money. Costco's the same way. They don't make money selling food and products. They're just hoping that you pay the membership fee, right? So the goal is going to be is that when you're looking at that margin, is that are you spreading yourself out? You know that you're going to have low margins in wholesale, selling parts to your competition, right? Two is that you want to sell it to the outside world. That's what our e-commerce is all about. Front counter is not going to make you any money, but those two things can grow your business. And of course, are you driving your hours and your capacity in your shop to help the parts department go? But when I look at parts, I call it fixed ops department. We're growing as a team together.
Very well said. Kelly, technology is a big player right now in fixed operations, and that includes parts. Your thoughts and your perspective on this?
It's great to see everybody from different parts of everywhere here because it opens your eyes to see things. I can't say that I agree or disagree with Tully and John's points. The insurance thing, for example, we don't have private insurance where we are. So there's a massive opportunity here for us. And that's something that we're growing towards this year is like body shop's a focus for us because we sell all those parts, whether they're OEM, aftermarket, it all comes to us. We get the opportunity at all of that stuff. And it's something we haven't done a great job over the past few years. So yeah, we're looking to grow that. Would online be a big part of the strategy? Yes, absolutely. I think you shouldn't ignore it for sure. Is it the one thing that's going to get you there? No. Like I mentioned the upfitting earlier. That's going to get us there. Upfitting is going to get us there. Online is going to get us there. And a lot of the auto body stuff, we're just missing a huge opportunity there as well. Not just selling to the cars that come into our repair facility, but even wholesale in the collision industry as well. We've been missing a big part there. So I think every market's different. I don't think there's one answer, really. I think it just depends on where you are, what the rules are, and what the opportunities are, right? So.
Sean, let me come to you. Can you resist e-commerce much longer here in 2026?
Yeah, let me start with be kind, rewind, Tully. Let me start with that Mr. Blockbuster comment. Hey, it stuck with you, didn't it, buddy? No, I think you can. I think you have to pick your battles. I'm gonna go back to what I said earlier, Ted. When we have margins that are eroding even on the customer pay side with Amazon, with everything else, okay? I think your focus needs to be, and I'm not saying there isn't a place for e-commerce in the business in the portfolio, but to me, it's one of those 20 group ideas, and I'm not. Sorry, Jinsei, you're going to kill me for this. This is one of those 20 group ideas that come back that it's the best idea in the world when your margins are off. And again, you have insurance companies eating your lunch again in the collision centers because we don't have a say in it. And again, if you're not a DRP, as Tully said, a direct repair facility for them, you don't have any business. You might as well shut the body shop down and turning it into bays. Because without DRPs, which again, they control, and some of them got so far now, if you miss it on the initial estimate, they're not going to pay for it. Go ahead and miss a bent frame. You're done. I mean, the car's over. I mean, again, I just think you got to pick your battles. You got to pick your battles. You pick what's most important. And for me, you control your margins. You control, by the way, we haven't even gotten to obsolescence yet, by the way. When we get to obsolescence, let's control your obsolescence before we worry about what we do. And yes, this is a source of getting rid of it, but let's control what caused the obsolescence to begin with.
Jen say some great points here in favor of, and also talking about the realities of business today. Your thoughts?
Yeah, and I can't wait for the obsolescence conversation either. But here's what I'll say. I think one of the things that is critical, and I've always learned this just being in business and being a parts manager in general senses, is, and when I look at our dealerships across the country, you have to adapt to the customer, and the customer likes to shop a certain way. It's like, and I think in the dealership world, we kind of have this mindset of like, here's how we're going to do business. And I know the 20 group idea, but really we have to look at who's our customer nowadays and how do they like to shop. And if, and I don't want to go, I won't use Blockbuster, so I'll just use, Circuit City. Okay.
Rotary phones.
We'll go to Circuit City, they felt like they didn't want to really adapt like Best Buy did, and we see where we went from there.
Great points, Jensei. And I guess that really opens the conversation now to the word that we've shared a couple times now that I know our panelists are chomping at the bit to discuss, but obsolescence. So Tully, all right, I'm going to come to you first. What's your plan to reduce obsolete?
Don't have it. Stop right there. I don't have a problem with obsolescence. You know why? Because we talk about it every week, every month. Facts, here we go. I have $6 million in inventory. I have $40,000 of inventory over 12 months, and 10,000 of it is a stupid e-bike the sales department had us buy. But here's the thing about obsolescence. Does your parts manager believe it's a bad thing? And if they don't believe it's a bad thing, it will never get fixed. Your goal is going to be, are you ordering right? Are you making sure you're not ordering obsolescent parts? Are you making sure that you allow the OEM to use all their benefits so you don't get OEM obsolescence parts? I agree 100% with Sean on obsolescence. Obsolescence is a problem of a parts manager or people ordering parts incorrectly. Now, getting rid of obsolescence, sure. Hopefully someone will buy this piece of crap part that you have sitting on the shelf on e-commerce. And you're going to probably discount it to a negative number because you just want it to go away. E-commerce is not about getting rid of obsolescence parts. Obsolescence parts problem is your store run well to make sure you don't have obsolescence parts.
Excellent points, Tully. And Kelly, are obsolete parts inventory just considered a sunk cost, or is what Tully's describing, achievable?
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to fully agree with that. I'm sure Sean's going to say the same thing. I've never understood the obsolescence. First of all, how did you get there? What caused that? Right? I mean, if you're just following the process and you're doing your jobs right, you're not ordering the wrong way. Now, here's what I will say. Maybe I look at obsolescence a little bit differently too. And Ted, I do remember this from the previous conversation we had where we had the legend Mike King on, and him and I were discussing obsolescence, right? We saw it from two point of views. His was anything over 12 months. Mine was, I don't care, it could be 12 hours old. If I have a part returned and I know that ain't going anywhere, it's not returnable, it's open box, whatever it is, it's obsolescence right now. What are we doing to get rid of that part? Like, you got to actively get on that. I just don't like when I go in a parts manager's office and I see a stack of boxes. I'm like, what is this about? I'm just waiting to deal with it. I'm like, well, what are we doing? Like, let's go now, right? So get in front of that. So I have maybe one shelf of obsolescence, I call it. We're actually changing it from the word obsolescence. Jens is going to love this. The new bin term is going to be called eBay. So anything in the eBay bin means, hey, it's available. Make me an offer. I don't care if you're in person here at the store. That way, if somebody comes to the counter and it's in that bin, make an offer. I can't return it. It's obsolescence as of, again, 12 minutes ago, 12 months ago. I don't really care what it is. It's gone. I see an opportunity, and this is a thing, that's part of our plan for next year. Dealerships are in this situation right now. Maybe I don't want to give them an out. There's some stores that have turnover. So if you have a lot of turnover, new parts managers, those parts collect and collect. The last guy doesn't know what the last guy did, what the last guy did, right? It just continues on. So again, not that I agree with it, but I understand why you get into that position. But here's what I'm saying. One of my plans for next year is I want to reach out to dealerships saying, hey, what do you have for obsolescence? I'm not going to buy it from you. Just send me what you have. Let me try to help you relieve that. I'm going to obviously want to get a percentage of that, right? But I think it's a huge opportunity. Otherwise, what do? After 12 months, 16 months, 24 months, they write it off, they get nothing. Well, let's try to get something out of that. And I think there's a huge opportunity for that. So again, I don't understand how you get in that position, but yeah, just don't make it happen.
Sean.
You ready? I mean,
I'm ready.
Paul and I are texting each other, by the way. You know, obsolescence is an easy answer. I'm going to agree with something Tully said in the first question. If you tie a pay plan to obsolescence, you don't have an obsolescence problem. When you don't tie a pay plan to it, all of a sudden it's not important to anybody. Obsolescence, and Ted knows this because we talked all through the month of December because I had $10 of our inventories as you're counting parts. If you hold people accountable, my favorite keyword, by the way, is accountability. If you hold people accountable and you attend to Kelly's point, what causes obsolescence, you're going to find out real quick who it is. It's either a technician who's saying, you know what, one of these three parts are going to fix it, so I'm going to order all three so I don't have to actually diagnose it. And then they install the one and return the two because there's no accountability. The second is a service advisor who, by the way, doesn't call his customers back. Or a mobile service team that doesn't work enough to install the SOP part, by the way. That's another, we can go down that avenue later too. But again, it's accountability. Is it a technician that's playing guess the part, or is it an advisor who just doesn't give a darn about calling the customer back to get them in to get the part installed?
Jinsei, lots of passion about obsolescence. We can hear from all of our panelists.
Yeah, so I'm not going to be the guy that says obsolescence is good, because it's not. Right? I'm in full agreement with everybody. I feel like, you shouldn't be in this position, but I do have to say, what do you do if you're in the position? I got to approach it that way. You know what I mean? You shouldn't ever get there, right? But we all know that the reason this topic is so passionate is because it is a thing, unfortunately. And
Yes.
this is a situation that dealerships are dealing with. And I would love to say that like every dealer operates the way that we are all conversating on in this call, but we know that that's not the case, right? So it's like, okay, what do you do if you're in that situation? And in my opinion, the answer is not throw it in the trash, because that's dumb to me. It doesn't make any sense to pay for something and throw it out. You know what I mean? So I feel like if a dealer is in this category or is in this situation, that
Yes.
they should definitely position themselves to price it in a way to actually sell it online, because you don't know, piece of people in your city may not want it, but somebody in the country does. So I don't think anybody should actually plan to be have obsolete inventory, but it is a thing. So
So, Jenze, on that thought, let me come back to you. The last couple weekends, and I know everybody on this panel has dealt and is dealing with obsolescence in one way or another. Last couple weekends, typically on a Friday or Saturday night, I will text Sean, Jenze, usually to get a weather report, find out how much snow is on the ground up there in Madison. And you know where he's been the last couple Friday and Saturday nights, Shenze? He's been in the
What?
parts department doing inventory on the weekends, late at night, sending me, photos and saying, I can't talk to you right now. We're doing variants, tonight and tomorrow. So I know he's dealing with it. So Jenze, for the Sean Kingreys and others in this world, Jenze, are we overestimating the complexity of selling online? Your thoughts?
I think selling online is completely hard, complicated, and not easy to do if you don't have the right tools.
Okay.
Right. And that goes with anything, by the way. If you don't have the right tools, then everything you do is hard and complex. And I feel like in most parts departments or in most fix ops mindsets, it's not even necessary that they sometimes even take the time to look into what they have to do. It's just the thought of what you even have to do is what even stops them before they even get started. Right. So I feel like when you start looking into tools, you start realizing it really is not that complex to sell online if you have the right tools, if you have the right partners, if you have the right solutions. And it's 2020. We're entering, obviously we're in a new century of technology, right? There's so many tools out there that make life easier. And I'll just kind of throw it out. If you look in an average dealership, there's so many things that have changed. But what's crazy is a lot of times how parts departments operate has not, So
Sean, we've been picking on you. Your thoughts?
No, I mean, I'm okay getting picked on. As I just got a text message, by the way, just so you guys know, from my dealer principal asked me, who's yelling at you on screen? And that'd be totally, by the way, just like to share that in this minute. We're going back and forth. Anyway, I agree with what Jenze is saying, but the reason I'm at the inventory is because I want to go to the core of the problem. I don't want to fix it after the forest fire's already started. Tully, you have enough of those out there, okay? I don't want to pick on all the forest fires. Let's start what caused the fire in the first place. Again, accountability, who ordered the part, why they ordered it, how did we get in the situation? Because if you do that, then I don't have to create another position to sell parts online. If you stop it before it happens, then you don't run into it.
Kelly, did you feel when you first got involved with e-commerce, I know it's been a while, that complexity of getting involved, and what do you think today?
That's a great question, because I haven't looked back. We've been doing it for 5 years, right? But I just started as simple as I was literally shipping a box off my desk in my office. Like that's how I started, just slowly to understand it and build it up from there. To a point now, I have full-time staff. They're dedicated. There's just a ship station in the back. Everything's automated that way. But I don't think it's complex to do it. I think maybe if you're not comfortable with technology, it's complex to understand it. Once you understand it and see it, a platform like Revolution Parts has made it just simple. It's click, 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 send. There's really not a lot to do. You know what I mean? I'd say it's no more complicated than the DMS. Some of these DMSs, holy cow, bring somebody in and teach them a DMS, they'll never understand that. Show them a website, they get that. It's intuitive. They can pick that up, right? So I don't think it's complex. I think it's complex as you want to make it. And if you want to make it really complex, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's just because you're leveling up. And like Jensen is maybe mentioning, you're adding more tools that your competitor doesn't have. Again, it's not a bad thing. You're just making it more complex as you want to be in that point, right? So,
Tully, if you would bring it home, what a lot of people like about you is that you are an early adopter. Yet really, you've been on the Revolution Parts platform for quite a long time now. And I think the business case has been proven long in the past. Tully, your thoughts about dealers getting on board with e-commerce?
The hardest thing about that is jumping and making the leap. I think people have a hard time with change. Humans don't like change. It's part of our core values. We embrace change. And I think with the parts guy is that he's trying to figure out how can he produce more income that's not in the service department. And I think, Kelly and Sinjay said it well, is that you've got to have the right partner to make it work. If this was complex, we wouldn't have done it because, we're busy. To Sean's point here is that, we have a lot of things to work on, and e-commerce doesn't need to be one of them. But if you have a great partner and a great program that helps you make it easy, that you can dedicate a shipping person to, right? You can dedicate a person to do online sales. It's enough. Then it works out great. And we've had a store that has championed that with one of our brands really, really well. And that's the reason we've adopted it through our stores group wide. Picking the wrong process doesn't work. And I would say this is a great example of taking pictures when we used to do inspections. Oh my God. You have all these programs that we're trying to sell you that didn't work or not integrated. Okay, we've mastered that. And then all of a sudden, guess what the sales department figured out? Hey, there's a camera on my phone and I can take a picture of a car. It's so funny, right? So now they're getting involved in cameras. And then as technology grows, how do we make it easier for our great team members to utilize the technology well? And that's where e-commerce comes in. And that's where Parts Revolution does a great job for us. They make our our team leaders, team members successful selling parts online.
And Genze, to further bring it home, you help make selling that online part a lot easier. Tell us about some of the things, we're talking about shipping, we're talking about advice, consulting. You come from the retail world. Tell us some of the things that you do in your daily life with Revolution Parts to help dealers like the ones who are on this panel today.
Yeah. So I think what everybody's saying is key. And I feel like, fear comes from lack of knowledge a lot of times, or the fear of the unknown, right? And one of the key things that we do at Revolution is you typically have what's called a CSM over your account, or a consultant like myself that works with an account. So that way we can get through the pain points. I always tell people the best mistakes to learn from is somebody else's, not yours, because yours take blood, sweat, tears and money, right? Whereas somebody else's, it cuts the time, right? So you can get to where you need to go. And one of the things that I had to figure out before I had Revolution, when I was selling online, was how do I price things properly when my price tapes change and I got to go through all of my items that are listed? How do I update all this stuff? And Revolution makes things so simple to update pricing, integrate with shipping, pulling everything into one platform, positioning for accounts to actually identify their gross margins that they want, read inventory, list inventory. There's a lot of things like on an automation level that makes it a lot easier. And what is a thing that a parts person or even a person in a dealership that doesn't have is time, right? And anything that can give you more time to you don't have to worry about it, the better, And there's a lot of tools that Revolution brings to the table, and that we actually work with accounts so that they can progress and actually scale very quickly online.
All right, very well said. I want to thank the panel, Genze Numa from Revolution Parts, Sean Kingery at the Kaiser Automotive Group, Kelly Marsden up at River City Ford, Tully Williams in Sacramento at the Nilo Company. Sarah, a great conversation, very timely, and one I think that's going to continue.
Absolutely, Ted. Revolution Parts is one of the leaders in all of parts e-commerce. So if you have more questions, website revolutionparts.com, Ted, is where you get started. And amazing information today from our panelists.
I'm Ted Ings with Sarah Van Tine here for the panel today. Thank you for joining us. For more information, revolutionparts.com, revolutionparts.com. Thank you.